Hey everybody! So today we're going to talk some more about the Galactic Center. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Super Galactic Center. There's a watcher that asked some questions about, they have some planets conjunct the Super Galactic Center. I have not seen their chart. So, and if I have, I don't know I've seen it. Like if they were part of the research and I don't know who they are in the research. So to the watcher, if I have seen your chart and I don't realize it, I am sorry. Yeah, they asked some questions and I figure it won't be super like intimate or in-depth or any, of an answer, but it might give you some ideas about how to play around with planets conjunct the Super GC, just in general. But first, just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to start with my disclaimer that I am not a Galactic Center expert or a Super Galactic Center expert. I have lots of astrological knowledge, but this is one area where I am literally just fucking with astrology. So, I reserve the right for anything that I say here to be wrong and nobody crucify me for it. Yeah, because I am just fucking with shit and putting things together and seeing what fits, what doesn't, what works, what doesn't. This is how we learn new things. The other thing I want to mention is, and I mentioned this in a previous video, I really, I want to teach a course, like the foundations or fundamentals of being able to read a chart. I'm not sure what I'll call it yet, but it'll deal with that, with how to read a chart. It will go over the planets, it'll go over the houses, it'll go over the signs, it'll go over the aspects, it'll go over the actual synthesis of chart weaving and chart reading. Now I'm thinking that if I do this, it'll start sometime in April and it would probably run through June or July. I'm thinking it would be anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks, at least 12 weeks. I do think that it would be at least 12 weeks, but it might be 14, it might be 16, I'm not totally sure yet. But if anybody is interested in this, email me at saturnseason@gmail.com. Let me know. This will be limited, because I've taught private lessons. I've never actually taught a course with multiple people before, so I'm thinking anywhere from 4 to 7 students. So if you are interested in this, let me know. And I do have the bones of it figured out, the skeleton, but I need to flesh the rest of it out. So, but yeah, I'm thinking starting in the beginning of April, running through late June to late June to late July is kind of where I'm at right now with the time frame. But let me know. Anyway, okay, so on to the actual question. This person mentioned that they have Venus, Mercury, the Sun. They also mentioned Pluto. I'm not sure if this is, I think this person, I looked at an ephemeris. I think, well, I won't shout out, I guess, when I think they were born, but I do think that I'm not sure Pluto is involved in this, just from the other information they gave me. It doesn't matter. I think that was probably just a typo. So we'll be looking at Venus, Mercury retrograde, and the Sun conjunct the Super Galactic Center. The South Node is also in the same sign, but different house. Okay, so I've mentioned before, there's some ways you can think about reading the Super GC. I know things like having to do with relationships, since it does fall in Libra right now, it's at 2 degrees Libra. Around the time that this person was born, it would have been at 1 probably, or when I think this person was born, it would have been around 1 something. So there is a relationship aspect to the Super Galactic Center. And there's also a balancing aspect to the Super Galactic Center. I think that both of these things come into play here. Now, just in general. Now, I've also made mention that I think the Galactic Center has an affinity for retrograde energy. Meaning not only does it have an affinity for retrograde planets, but it also has an affinity for, it kind of functions. To me, the Super GC and the Galactic Center kind of have a retrograde flavor to it because they change, right? They change the way that planets conjunct either one of those will function. retrograde motion changes how the planet functions. So there is kind of a retrograde flavor to it. There's also an out of bounds flavor to both of these, to the Galactic Center and the Supergalactic Center. Now, what I think is interesting here is we have Mercury retrograde. So my question has been in the past, does this actually make Mercury function, or like a retrograde planet in general, conjunct the Super GC or the Galactic Center? Does this make the planet function even more in a retrograde way? Or does it flip it and kind of change it to where it's doesn't feel as retrograde anymore? Whereas like if a direct planet is conjunct the Supergalactic Center or the Galactic Center, does it, you know, then flip it to feel more like a retrograde planet? Now that one, I think it does. Like if you have like this person's Venus is direct, being conjunct the Supergalactic Center does kind of make me think that this person does need to sort of function from Venus in a more retrograde way. Or they might find that, you know, things having to do with retrograde Venus might line up more for them. Like when they read stuff about Venus retrograde, they might find that it fits them better than Venus direct. I do wonder about the one thing that I haven't been able to figure out, though, is the Mercury retrograde part, or the retrograde planets conjunct the Super GC. Like, does that then flip it and make it more direct? That's a lot. I mean, you've got the Sun, you've got Mercury, you've got Venus. They are conjunct the Super GC, and it does feel like, because these are very personal planets, right? They're some of the inner planets are personal. I'm not sure what their chart ruler is. I'm not sure what their chart ruler is. It actually might be Jupiter retrograde. I could be wrong about that, just from kind of looking at what I'm looking at in the in the message that they left. But these are very, very personal planets, and it does make me think that this person might have a tendency to feel like they have to compromise things about themselves, because, you know, the Supergalactic Center does deal with balance, and it does deal with relationships. It deals with these things, with these Libra kinds of things, and in a big way, right? Like again, in a big, massive way, in kind of a twisted way. And I don't mean twisted bad. I mean like just changed, you know. So it does make me think that this person could do a lot of compromising of themselves. I think they made mention that it's in the 11th house, which does make me think that this could come out in groups, and with, you know, social causes, humanitarian causes, even with their long-term goals. There could be a feeling of like they're compromising or having to compromise too much. And it's because they are inclined to do this as it is. So many of their personal planets are conjunct the Super GC. So for this person, they're going to need to really, and anybody that has like anything like this going on at the Super GC, they're going to have to watching for compromising, overly compromising, when you need to compromise and when you don't. And perhaps being inclined to compromise more of your value or more of your love, what you need in that regard, say, to somebody else, or in the name of balance with Venus. Or Mercury, there might be more compromising of your mind to other people, your thoughts to other people, or to you know, your communication with other people. It might bend more to others. And with Mercury retrograde, this could end up being really fucking noisy if the retrograde doesn't flip itself. I could see, you know, because Mercury retrograde is noisy. It is noisy, and that seems possible. And the Sun, I mean, with the Sun conjunct the Supergalactic Center, it does seem like just compromising the identity could very well come into play at the altar of the other. Since this is happening in Libra, I'm actually not sure. The Sun could be in Virgo, so there might actually really, any of these planets could actually be in Virgo. So I'm kind of looking at this from the super galactic center being in Libra. But this could change slightly depending on what sign Venus, Mercury, and the Sun actually are in. But I think those themes are probably pretty prevalent. And I would say that's probably the case for, if you've got like, I don't know, like let's say you've got Saturn conjunct the super GC. There could be a compromising too much of your mastery. And on the flip side of that, you could also be dealing with somebody who, not necessarily in this person's case, but you could be dealing with somebody who doesn't know how to or like really fights compromising altogether. And that would depend on everything else going on in the chart. I really don't think that would be the common way for it to go, but I think it could, depending on what else is happening. It could happen, but I don't think that it necessarily goes that way most of the time. I think it probably goes the way of over compromising, kind of falling into that black hole of overly compromising yourself, or overly compromising your mind and Mercury, your communication, your values, your love with Venus, your drive or your aggression or what have you with Mars. This is kind of how, it keeps falling. That's kind of how I think this plays out. I guess to the watcher, let me know how you feel about this, because like I said, I am still fucking with shit. Hopefully this helps for anybody else trying to kind of play along and figure this stuff out. I am going to get going, but I will put where you can find me in the description box below. And if you're interested in being part of the study, you can reach out, let me know, and I'll shoot you over the questionnaire to be a part of it. All right, I'll see y'all later.